Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Left Wave Transmission podcast. We're here with our awesome lineup. It's episode 5. My name is Louise. I run a channel called Matriarch Archetype. Let's hear from our lovely guests. I want to do a quick intro, just as always. So, do you want to go first?
Hi, Sylvan. We'll have a very interesting conversation today, for sure, with me. So look forward to that. Towards that, you take it away, Bridget.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was just checking if this thing is working. If people can see my, oh no, it's live. It's live. It's fine. It's fine. No panic. No panic. Hi, I'm Bridget Empire. I'm a left YouTube idiot, and I say idiot because I am sick today because it's a heat wave, and I decided I could go for my usual 3-hour walk in the afternoon, and it turns out that I'm white. I mean, who knew? So I can't handle all that sun. So yeah, I'm gonna be partially quiet this time. I'm going to try at least to rest my voice a little bit, but I should be fine. I mean, I'm too ADHD to not say things anyway. Yeah, she, her pronouns. What else have I forgotten? Anyway, doesn't matter. Take it away.
All right. Yes. Hi. I'm Finn, aka Swolesome. Pronouns are he, him, and yeah, I'm sitting in an air-conditioned bunkie because I too am white. Um, and also, Bridget, if I may, maybe don't blame yourself for the climate change. I know you still made the decision to go for a walk, but let's put the onus on the people that actually belongs to. Um, if everyone's okay with it, I might just quickly do some shout outs. So we are all, as the name suggests, leftists. We're most of us are. I mean, I think we're all like organizers, activists, involved in various things on the ground. In addition to the work that we do here on YouTube. So I wanted to take a moment to shout out just a couple of campaigns from people that I'm in touch with, and encourage people to take some action. So the first is my friend Maysara Al-Ashal in Gaza, who has been working with his family there to try and raise money just to survive. They have been, I mean, anyone who's been paying attention to the news, anyone who's been paying attention to what's being done to Palestine by Israel knows exactly what's going on there. They have been raising money to try and evacuate, but those efforts have been shut down time and time and time again. So there are a couple things that I want to just quickly point out to people. When you look at Palestinian campaigns, it might look like they've raised a lot of money. I've noticed there's this tendency for people to engage with them by clicking and then be like, oh, okay, well, they've raised, like $30,000. Keep in mind that's been since the war started, right? For a lot of these people, that's looking at $30,000 for, say like a family of 9 over multiple years now in a war zone. Like, so even if it looks like they have succeeded in their campaigns, they need monthly support. So I want to really encourage people to engage with them. The next is Amani. She is a mother in Gaza who is working to raise money for to care for her children. She urgently needs $600 by July 20th and $1,000 for her son Mohammed's tutoring as well. I'm really trying to get that together. And so she's looking into evacuation paths. So if you're listening and you're someone who cannot donate, but you are familiar with evacuating people out of war zones, we will include her campaign and information to reach out to her. And then the last is Sophie, who is a trans woman in the Goram refugee camp in South Sudan. So she is the mother of a found family there. She has basically taken a whole bunch of other queer people under her wing. She has been put through absolute hell, and she's still taking care of other people there. So Sophie is an absolutely wonderful person. She's a total sweetheart. We speak regularly, and I'd really like to encourage people to support her because Gaza has been falling out of the news cycle, and Sudan barely made it in the first place. And both these places, people are surviving genocide and all kinds of atrocities. So anything you can do, even if it's just reaching out to people, don't underestimate the power of connecting through messages if you are unable to give financially. That is my spiel. Thank you very much for listening. And whether it's $5, $10, or $100, or even more if you can afford it, please give if you can.
Well, I'll say this: I don't care for fireworks, but Fourth of July is a very unnecessary, especially in this country, unnecessary holiday. 250 years of freedom for who? White men, cis white men, of course, for cis white men, and I just feel like people like I never really celebrated Fourth of July because it's like when there's a difference like when black and brown people we use it to have a barbecue and we'll pop fireworks, but like we're not doing it to be patriotic. It's just more like a get together thing. But as I've gotten older, I've grown out of fireworks. But especially like being that I'm from OC, I was near Disneyland, I saw fireworks so much that I just literally I think that I'm more on this I'm in a position where I'm like, it's unnecessary. Like honestly, all the pollution that this does and heating and whatnot, and it's just like it really is our country that's up here toasting everybody up and they don't care. And I mean, there was a lot of places that was telling people not to, where it was like they made it illegal, and people did it anyways. And forgot what one location, but it burnt a whole mountain, lit on fire. That people would go on hikes for, and when it got all burnt up because someone didn't want to listen with, and they were using illegal fireworks at that. So, and this happens so often, and people, so it's like that is some more pollution and carbon dioxide is being put out into the atmosphere with all these fires that are being caused by idiots. I mean, and so yeah, also like on 4th of July, you saw that photo of that black woman on the bus with all those white supremacists on that bus. Like,
Crazy.
so that like I'm adding that to my video. Like I have to like update that because that is like a wild one. Because those are the people that were in Charlottesville, that they're from the org that was birthed from Charlottesville. Those particular Nazis, um,
Yeah.
those white supremacists on the bus that's masked because you don't know who the fuck they are. These people, and the reason why they're masked is these people work jobs that taxpayers are paying for. We're paying for their checks. So they're hiding behind masks because they want to be able to do that shit and still have us have to pay their wages.
Yeah.
These
I'm
people,
scared.
so yeah, that is the situation when you have these masked people who like the reality is like everything that would happen doesn't exist in a vacuum. That's why like I'm making this video about the alt-right public because it like literally this is it manifesting of these things that led to Charlottesville, that then now what Charlottesville itself is now a starting point that led to what is now happening.
Yeah.
So you know
It's gross.
it's
Yeah.
so connected.
No, just agreeing. It completely is gross. That photo, I think, is people are saying, it's going to go down in history books to kind of really frame this time period and the horrible feeling. I mean, these cowards on a public transport that cover their faces. If you really want to hold to those beliefs, then show the world. And why aren't they? Because they know what they're doing is hateful. They know it's unpopular. And they know that, like you say, they couldn't go about their daily lives working in banks and tax paying and
I mean,
their
the dark part is a lot of these now have been hired by the FBI under Trump, which is a whole other thing. Like Patriot Front, a section, militia that was officially disbanded, apparently, not so much anymore, just integrated.
Jesus. I always think
Yep.
as well, like, I always like to use the thing of like, these are extreme right, alt right, people. The extreme left as well is like, doesn't actually exist in the same paradigm. No one, like, to my understanding, to my knowledge, what is deemed as the far left is like a separate thing. Like, but like, you couldn't even get a group of what we know and define as like left wing communists. So like not hateful. No one's calling for people to be hurt. No one's calling for any harm to anyone. Just wants like to cease the means of production, to end capitalism and the patriarchy, stuff like that. Those people couldn't walk along the street without Trump targeting them in some form. But you can get actual hate-filled neo-Nazis that are able to do this. Like my brain can't compute. Like someone make it make sense. Like I don't understand. Like why is that allowed? Why is that allowed generally? Like why are they allowed?
I mean, the simple answer is that actually the left is a threat to capital and the far right isn't, which is
It upholds it. It's just,
Yeah,
That is the answer.
money.
That is
It's
the
the
answer.
money.
That is
It's
exactly
always
why.
the
There's a
money.
reason that the police stand with their backs to the white supremacists at every counter protest.
Crazy. It's crazy.
It's also like not to because it's one of those things that people need to take extremely seriously. And in addition to that, something that I want to highlight just to give people hope. First, the cold, sobering dose of historical reality, which is that the Confederates didn't go away, they just lost power. The Nazis didn't go away, they just lost power. Like, these people and these movements have always existed, and I think I've said it before, but I'm going to keep saying it, that Trump isn't president. Like, America's not like this because Trump is president. Trump is president because America was already like this. And I think that that is really important to remember when we're looking at this kind of thing. But something that I want to really highlight is the fact that they're wearing masks, to me, signals something that a lot of people who are witnessing this kind of hatred tend to forget. And it's a piece that they rely on, fascists rely on, to sort of intimidate us into silence and inaction, which is that they are ashamed in some capacity. They are aware that their beliefs are out of line with what the vast majority of humanity actually practices. Because if most people agreed with them, the world would already be, we'd have destroyed ourselves already. The world would be fucked. We wouldn't see the level of diversity, the level of compassion that we do see. They are incredibly destructive, they're incredibly violent, they're incredibly dangerous, and they need to be taken seriously, but they are aware of the fact that people don't like them. People don't agree with them. They are not the majority. They just pretend that they are to try and intimidate the rest of us into silence. So if you're somebody who saw Patriot Front marching, you're seeing these white nationalist groups, keep in mind that they've always been there. This infection has been festering since America's inception. But now they're getting rooted out and they're covering their faces because they're afraid of you. So use that. Use that fear. Use that knowledge.
That's good to see. Good to hear. Actually, that's quite reassuring. I think I got told my audio is quite low as well. Let me know if that sounds better. Um, but you were saying as well, so Selma, you were talking about 4th of July. So what we come into this, like, I was having this discussion as well, like, because obviously in Japan you get like a little bit of a group of Americans, people, different countries all kind of push together. Like, we do not get taught in the UK. I mean, Bridget, you can maybe agree with this or not, but like, we don't really get taught about the 4th of July. It's not really like a serious thing for us. I'm only learning about it in like adulthood. Like, I like, it's very I'm going to use a word that I don't quite know, which is probably not a good idea. Self-aggrandizing, is that the word? Like it's also such an American thing to celebrate that, and
I mean, if
it?
you watch American TV, as most people do, you'll see it in The Simpsons or whatever, right? But I mean, there's a reason that Britain wouldn't tell you about the 4th of July.
Yeah, true.
That
But
makes
also,
sense.
lost.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
like,
gonna say it's the most popular American holiday of all American holidays. But what I will say as a Black American and who's half Hispanic, the one that is wearing the American flags and shit, and the hats and the whole American flag, whole outfit and overalls, one of them white people doing that. They're the ones being patriotic about it. So it's always
yeah,
like, I feel like what it is, the best way to describe it is that everyone has like, people don't like, Black people don't give a damn. Most people just use it to have barbecues that aren't white. It's the white people that like make it a fiasco, they make a show out of it, and then they go and attack. What they would do, they would argue and attack people of color who weren't being patriotic in their eyes. So like this like harassment element of it, where you have people to being told, go back to your country, go back where you came from. Mind you, we were all, a lot of us were being American born. We're being told to go back to Africa
terrible.
because I don't want to
I
be
will say as
waving a
well,
big
Louise,
flag.
that sorry.
So keep going. So
I will. I was going to say as well, like, this is sort of being transported over to the UK now because everyone's watched so much American stuff that they're trying to basically now make St. George's Day this, and this will be happening while you've been away, Louise. Is really, really. I mean, a lot of the right has just been completely yankified. Like, they really import the culture war issues from America, And now they're trying to make St. George's Day, which is the patron saint of England, if people that don't know, into this sort of thing where people are wearing like giant England flag hats, which the England flag is a dog whistle over here, just in case people don't know, unless it's football season. It's a dog whistle. And they're going around like questioning like brown people all over the place. It's become like a big thing. Like there's a lot of recent, like a lot of racist harassment in the streets of the UK that's just been allowed by our current government. So sorry, keep going.
I just want to add, like, I agree. I've seen that through here, like the Americanization of the UK far right, especially when you see like Israel coming into it, like the Tommy Robinson like support for Israel stuff. I'm like, where is that from? I'm sorry, like we do not get taught about the same things in the US in the UK like education system. Like any like outright support for a country like Israel has to be like manufactured in a certain way. Like there's historically a lot more ties and stuff like that, and I understand that, but like
I mean, I can answer this question because the EDL was like its former organization. What turned into the EDL was an organization funded by like an Israeli like benefactor. So like this is legitimately it's been part of the funding source for the EDL is Israeli in origin.
But we didn't learn about it like in popular culture. Maybe it's just that I was a kid in the UK and I'm an adult now. Like I don't know. Maybe everyone else has the same thing, but I don't know.
Maybe. Well, one thing I will say though is that it sounds like there's an easy word to describe everything you guys are witnessing. Y'all got a bunch of people who are LARPers. They're LARPing as American culture war is. That's all it is LARPing.
Yeah.
So they took LARPing to the as far as they could take it, and that's, to me, that's crazy. Like that is literally what it is. It's just LARPing. As sucky as much as it sucks for me to minimize it, you're describing LARPing. Like these people are LARPers who have been LARPing, listening to too much American media, too much right-wing culture bullshit. I think what it was, and it still goes back to the alt-right pipeline, it was the anti-SJW movement that you had people from back in like 2014 to 2018. I mean, really 2017, it kind of ended in 2017 over in America. It continued in 2018 and the in Europe. So it kind of had more legs because that was going towards Brexit, which all these same creators and bigots were pushing for, encouraging people. But once that kind of content came out, what happened is that Europe's their Islamophobia was imported to American politics that made people talk about LARPing about the issues that was happening in Europe with all the what they called the migrant crisis. So it was like a culture exchange of LARPing where they were LARPing that to go push certain laws to get Muslim bans, like Trump's Day One. And then the British, who, I mean, it really wasn't that big until it became big. And once it was there, it was there. But certain figures like Sargon of Cod, I can't think of the other British ones, but Count Dankula and certain people, they were trying to, because they wanted to get some motion. I mean, you got also the Canadians too, Lem LARPing motherfuckers. We got a lot of, they got a lot of Canadian ones. Oh, the Lord, the LARPing. It's LARPing competitions. They be saying oppression Olympics. It's LARPing Olympics. So they're LARPing on other people's issues, countries' issues, and using it to booster their own culture wars. So that's kind of where it all comes to. Like, it's just these other people, Canadians, LARPing it about like pro-Trump Canada, but before Trump even got elected, like all these people, right-wing people, trying in Canada, like Lauren Southern, Steven Crowder. It took me years to figure out that he was not American. He's a Canadian. He's married to an American. That's why he lived in Texas and whatnot, not on a visa. But you know,
he voiced
the funniest part. The funniest part is Tom McDonald. Tom McDonald is the funniest one. The funniest LARPer of all time.
Oh yeah, he is a LARPing king.
He's Canadian.
Like that's what I mean. Like it is like
so embarrassing.
We're in a LARPing hellhole. Okay, this is all because people don't have personality. People don't have individuality. People don't have fucking skills, and they would rather LARP to fucking hell, throw our world to hell in a handbasket because they want to make a quick buck LARPing because it's profitable to LARP. It is at the point, because that's what I mean. Like these people got the politics from the alt-right pipeline, and then they went into not just that, but they taught them the rhetoric. They gave them the blueprint. They gave them all the blueprints. These YouTubers is what they want to be. They want to be cool. They want to know how to like, because it was the start of the first time it was politicalization of fandom, weaponizing their fandoms to make political moves that were harming feminists, women of color, trans people, etc. Everyone that wasn't a cis white man.
Mm-hmm.
These politics had it's poison, and it's gotten to the point where you're seeing them LARPing to the furthest degree with like the equivalent of 4th of July there. And I'm seeing so much British stuff come to my timeline. It wasn't this bad before. I saw the progression because I always kept a cursory glance. But it really is like, y'all, like some of them is so sad, but it's the only way they get views. People are doing what is getting them money, and we live in an attention economy that is so immersed into our everyday life and politics that this type of behavior is encouraged more so than ever when they have the recipe. These anti-CWs that like don't want to fucking apologize and still want to have whitewash and water down their movement that they helped create, gave them the motherfucking Thanksgiving fucking recipe, the best colonizer Thanksgiving recipe they could, and now because of that recipe is out there, we're in a hellscape of that, and people are using that recipe to LARP and get what they can get and fuck all everyone else. And I'm sorry that I sound so intense, but I'm like been working in such a deep video, and it's like everything keeps tying back to this thing that where I was a fucking minor and had no fucking say over it. I was in high school, and these, I don't want to hate, but it's not all millennials, but if you see millennial men, these white millennial men that put us here where we're at. Sorry.
It's an intense situation. It's right.
I was gonna say, yeah.
It's completely valid.
Don't apologize for.
You're right. I mean, it does all come back to the same things, and it's like there is this powerlessness that comes with the understanding of the situation. I completely agree. I completely get it.
Chat, remember to like the stream. I'm going to post some links that Finn sent in a minute to there. Once I figure out how to open the chat without ending the stream for me, I'll email it to myself. And so it'll be like 2 minutes. But maybe we could, speaking of intense situations, talk about the elephant in the room.
Can you join this too? I know you want to. There's some things I know you can speak on from what I like threw down. There was a lot there, but I definitely want to hear you chime in.
The main thing is the stream healthy. Everyone okay? Chat. Let me know if the stream's okay. Audio's all good. I feel like I might be zoning in and out and the thing, but yeah. Should we talk about the main thing? Should we talk about the
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Before we do, Finn, can you pick up on what I talked about? I want you to like chime in a little bit because I know there's something you can say on that.
Yeah, absolutely, on millennial white men putting us in this position. Again, it goes back to what Bridget was saying. You know, it's serving capital. Like, there's a reason why as soon as these guys, you know, what you were talking about, that it's profitable to put themselves on that side, to like spread those ideas, to sort of generate that, you know, the hate-fueled attention. That one of the things that really frustrates me about it is these guys are also out there pushing this idea that like men are specifically in a loneliness epidemic. And yes, but so is everyone. Everyone's in a loneliness epidemic. And this isn't to say that it's not more difficult for men in a lot of ways, because, you know, patriarchy teaches men to completely withdraw and not engage and not have community. And in a very strange way, I'm going to word this as carefully as I can because I don't want to make it sound like oppression is a privilege. But the shared experience of resistance is something that men can unite on. So racialized men, queer men, men who have some kind of identity that is in opposition to this system that's oppressing them, have the opportunity to connect with each other and sort of feed that emptiness that pushes them to engage in hateful rhetoric that rewards them within the pre-existing system in the first place. Am I making sense? I'm going to finish this thought, I promise, but it's okay. So I think that for a lot of these guys, like the cis het, in some cases, het white men who are engaging in this behavior and, really creating these very hateful spaces and are doing it specifically for profit, I almost wonder if there's this part of them that has completely given up on having a sense of identity, camaraderie, and community outside of the oppressive system that they live in. And they are oppressed by it too. Patriarchy is oppressive. Class politics are deeply oppressive, but they're oppressed and also positioned to achieve the most power under that system. So rather than unite themselves with people who don't have the option of getting out and finding real solidarity, they keep trying to reach that peak. They keep trying to scale that mountain, not understanding that prosperity is in the valley. Prosperity is off the fucking mountain entirely. And the capitalists, the ones who actually hold all the power, the, 1%, are going to be standing up there rolling boulders at them the entire time, regardless of how well they suck their dicks. But they just, I don't know, they just keep clawing their way up these hills with their mouths open. And I just don't understand it. But that, I think, segues into into the elephant in the room, because I think, getting down to it, they often struggle. The men who do this, the men who, the guys who largely put us in this position, they don't have the ability to identify with or empathize with anyone who is not exactly like them. And that's the problem. That's the problem, right? And I think that more of these men need to look at why. Why is that? Why can't you form solidarity with people who are not exactly like you? Why do you need a Graham Platner to care about this kind of politics? Why him? Anyway,
I,
Yeah, no, good.
something that
Okay.
reminded me of that I just want to bounce off as well. Like, patriarchy is upholding itself by installing the same notions of patriarchy, right? And so I don't know, I was brought up on most protagonists in films being a young white boy, most protagonists in games being some form of the hero is a young white boy, and variations of that are harshly criticized, or they're playing on a trope, but then they're still centering the trope technically. Like if you have a young, black girl as a protagonist, but you aim it as we're going against the grain, like you're still centering white people technically, even if you're counteracting it per se, and there's still so many things that you get this entire generation of white cis het men, like you say, that are just by default so used to considering themselves the center of the universe that when that is threatened in any way, they see that as taking away from what is the status quo, rather than having to face the fact that you've been, it's almost like the Truman Show. I don't know if anyone knows the film. So you've been set up to think that you're the center of the bloody world, and you're not, and that's actually so harmful. And to get you there, people have had to die and everything. That the idea of that being taken away feels like inequality to them. Not getting free access to women's bodies feels like a loneliness epidemic. Like I have someone in my family that I had a huge discussion about, gender equality, and I said, talk to me about why men R word women, which is why I'm segueing into this. And the first thing outside of their mouth was, but what about men? Men are lonely. If that's your response to talking about what happens to women is men's feelings, then this is the problem. Men are too centered in this world. So sorry, I had to just so many things that you said that really struck. And again, bouncing off Soul Bunny's thing, I know Soul Bunny's, you're so in on it with the gaming industry and anti SJW stuff that I completely agree. So let's talk about then the Graham Platner situation. Anyone new to the podcast, we did cover Graham Platner briefly in another episode, and we voiced our
Briefly in like an
then.
hour.
Yeah.
that brief hour talking about this one fucking guy.
We did voice our concerns there, and at that time there was this kind of illusion on the left of it was a discussion of are you for him or are you against him? And I just want to open up and say, I read the article. If you don't know what we're going to go in about, I don't know how much detail we're going to go into, but I'm going to hedge it just for now. You guys go into as much detail as you want. I read the article, grimacing with every line, flashbacks, traumatic, I won't even get into that. Horrible, disgusting. And what the only thing I will say off the bat, because I'm sure we're going to get into the more details of that, is that I've seen so many people that were pro Graham Platner say things like, well, I don't want to hear about, people that were critical about him. I don't want to be told, I told you so. It's not the time for that discussion. And I'm saying, when the fuck is it the time for that discussion then? Like, I would say I woke up to Emma Vigiland's like reel on Instagram of her just addressing it, saying sorry, and being like, we ignored some red flags, like we'll discuss this. Like, I think that is the absolute least. I think there should be actually harm. There should be damage control done for platforming this guy. And the last thing I just want to see is a bunch of people being like, well, I don't want to be told I was wrong. That's not helpful. It's like, well, I think people deserve way less. I don't know. That's my opening 2 cents.
You were wrong.
Yeah, literally.
Sorry to jump in. There's a thing in the chat actually that
Okay,
that I want to just quickly address, from Ula Mule. Is that how you say your username? Just said, we cannot keep saying they are acting against their own best interests. No, their best interests are male superiority. Their best interests are white superiority. I definitely I hear that, and I think you're right. I think we can talk about two things at the same time, and I think it's really important to touch on that. Under this current system, yes, it is in their best interest. But when I say it's not in their best interest, what I'm pushing for there is the idea that capitalism is best, right? We know that if we decolonize our social systems, our minds, we know that human beings benefit from connection. We know that in different parts of the world, men show a lot of social health and wellness and connection that men under white supremacist capitalistic systems don't experience. And so when I say it's not in their best interest, it's because I think we need to step outside of that system and recognize that there are things outside of capitalistic, hierarchical, patriarchal systems in the first place. So it's more that, like, within the system, yeah, it's for sure in their best interest. But how do we get them out of it? How do we get them out of the system to something that is healthier for humanity more broadly, right? Sorry, just wanted to
And would be helpful and it would be
that.
more helpful for them eventually as well, even if they can't see it right now. No, I agree.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
the psychic damage involved with still being in a male and white superiority based culture is still there, still bad, still negative. It's like,
Yep.
yeah.
There's a reason Elon Musk is the most miserable human being on the face of the earth. Like, yeah, he's got a lot of money, he's got a lot of power, but that man is
Schmuck.
not happy. That
Yeah.
is not a content person. He is deeply insecure. He is isolated. Everyone hates him. He is miserable. He is lonely. He's pathetic. He is really just sad. He's a very sad figure. And
It would make more sense if the rumors are true that he does have a botched surgery. I
Yeah.
won't say, but
I've not heard
that
this.
we can see a dissatisfied, um, you know, region in your body. He had a surgery and it got botched, and that, and I'd imagine that had just forever put, in a way, maybe disabled him in some aspects, and I just feel like he's been more evil since then, since that surgery went wrong, and now you know, he's been on the impregnating women, and we don't know how he's doing it now, but he's doing it somehow.
Crazy.
But yeah,
with money.
that makes so much sense.
He's doing
It's
it with
like
money.
someone. I'm making a joke, sorry, but it's also, it could be really real. That might actually be the source of, like, this person has all this money, whatnot, but they got a botch private area. So now they can't they don't have that satisfaction of sex that they used to, or I don't know what it is, but the man is taking it out on all of us
also there's
and trying to take us all
the
down.
aspect of which he desperately also wants to be really funny, and he's just terminally unfunny, right?
Yeah, he wants to be appealing to other people. He wants to be satisfying to other people in multiple ways that he can't be. And when I talk about, like, these guys, what they're craving, that's what they want. They want to mean something to other people, and they think that the best way to do that is to win at hierarchical white supremacist capitalism. That's not how you mean things to other people. That's not what is going to enrich your, for lack of a better description, your spirit. Like, that's not what is going to make you a whole ass human being that other people care about. And I say this, I'm a trans man. I am 5'6". I don't have a lot of money. I'm a very happy, connected person. Like, I am missing a lot of the hallmarks of what, like, what cis men typically, well, white cis men assume is desired as a man. I'm a very happy guy. I'm a very well connected person. I live a very satisfying life. I'm very content. I'm very comfortable in my life. And I'm comfortable in spite of all of these traits that I'm lacking that would make me this, like, superior male specimen, because I don't care about achieving all of those things. Like, I don't want those things. Those things are made up and silly. Like, they don't matter to me. The trap that you're in is that shit matters to you, and you can decide that it doesn't, but you have to, again, connect with other people. And to segue back into the Platner situation, I think that there's a lot here as to why these guys only get politically motivated when they see a guy like Platner, when they see this gruff, veteran former mercenary who he's an oysterman, he's blue collar, he's big and buff, he's all of these things that they desperately want to be. Like, I lost
Is
my
it
train
power
of thought.
fantasy
No,
projection?
I think you're right.
Yes,
Daddy.
yes.
But it's the
They
centering
want a
of,
daddy. They
men
want
in
to be
all
a
of it, though.
daddy.
Like, I completely agree. I was going to just springboard off what you just said. Like, it's the centering of men in all of this, though, and powerful strength considered to be muscle strength, not emotional strength. All of these things that are male centric and male focused, and like even just to like tie the loop with Elon Musk. Like, if you center phallus and if you center production and having children and like owning and a legacy, then like yeah, you're going to be devastated when things don't work, and like that's it's like their own fault, if you know what I'm saying. Like you were saying about what is actually happiness, because if you focus on the creation of happiness based on all of these patriarchal stereotypes, then like that's just one form of happiness. You could argue, is Andrew Tate happy? Do you know what I mean? Like, but then you see all of the incels that are like, I just want a woman I can own and I can treat, I can look after it because it's too dumb to be a human, and why won't women love me? And then you see on the left all of these happily married, like have families, fulfilled emotionally, like if that, but like I think I remember FT Signify saying something that's like, if that's not clicking, if people don't see that and realize that like they're thinking the wrong thing, then they're the shithead. Like if you hate women enough to become an incel, the ideology of you getting to that point is not entirely your fault. Like you still had to be a bit of a shithead to get to that way of thinking originally. Like I'm really paraphrasing his words terribly, but like but so and this is, and Graham Platner is the literal latest beacon of this. Like you have this guy that the red flags were there. People were actively in this group psychosis of ignoring any criticism, valid criticism. People then feel like they can't give the criticism because they don't want to get kind of taken away from the group. And so then certain things get swept under the rug. And then also, this is like I'm saying, the counteractive of when this comes out now is that like, when are we going to have those discussions then? So, but abhorrent. And like I know this is a really non-helpful statement and it's not exactly opening a discussion, but I just have to get this feeling out I have of like, why are all these things happen? Why are all these men R-wording people? Why is that just some random subset of culture that we live in? It's mind-boggling. Like I'm still not over the 65 million views to that R-word website where people were uploading videos about doing that to their partners. Like that keeps me awake at night. That is like traumatizing. That is just a thing in society, and it's not talked about in the same way. People don't want to cover that news. That is just commonplace. Like the story of the French lady and her husband and that group of people doing those things to her that's nightmare fuel. And like and then you have the entire right wing that are saying like, oh, see, the left can't get a serious candidate, he's so bad, and then they're not looking at their own president. Like none of it makes sense to me. I generally can't make sense of it. I know that is not even a very helpful thing. I'm just,
when you're taught to view women as commodities, even just subconsciously by society, people start to buy into it, right?
Yeah.
It's
one thing I
power.
want to say about this case, when I read about the details, it disgusts me to my core. Like this man broke into this woman's home and she like doesn't. I can imagine just like me casually telling her like, I don't feel like hanging today. I'll be left alone. and that guy come over, walk into my house, and go and like I freak out and run to my room, and then hey, I'm just I can't say the details, but like we all read the report. I stopped at the point where it gets to the detail. We know what happened, so just to kind of like that kind of and to not to like also do the stealthing thing and just go. Oh no, they didn't stealth. Sorry, they're known for stealthing, and that's a word for when someone has a condom on and they go and slip it off and go and like make it seem like it fills his aim. But there's um the aspect that he used no protection and like left
On purpose. Yeah.
DNA in her. That's the only way I can say that's the PG. So it's just like seeing how there was so many people that were just like saying, "Oh well, this person's Republican, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens to a woman." Like it's just like when you're an intersectional leftist, I don't want to see what Republican women are going through as much as I don't agree with their lifestyle and the people they marry and date. That doesn't mean I'm going to sit here like I don't care if their body's being taken advantage of and they're going through extreme distress. If a Republican woman came to me and told me exactly what Graham Platner did to her, I'm not going. Oh well, she's probably going to fuck that bitch. But a lot of people move that way, and that is so inhumane.
Yeah.
That is not that is not the way how a human responds to things. And I saw people saying, "Well, if there's like a third person, like why aren't they coming out?" And the third person was said woman that came out recently, and she said that she would have came out with everyone else, but because she was so afraid, not afraid, but she was in this conflict of like her agreeing with his politics and not wanting to mess that up for him and her own feelings and her having to choose between her closure, her how she truly feels, and everyone else benefiting from him getting help, him being a candidate that brings in Medicare for all, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, like, and you had people. Now I won't say their names because I don't want to mix up who exactly said what, but I have a group of people in my head that all were running for defense on him. But it is disgusting that in this whole case, this woman was always there and always wanting to go there, but she had to. She chose to make that decision of because and for finally her speaking out, and I'm so glad. But I'm so glad people are finally like waking up, but like at what cost? Like you went and like broke bridges. You unfollowed a lot of people that were speaking up. You guys harassed. You had your fans. You weren't telling your fans not to. White leftists showed us that like because of my point is that BreadTube, its existence was to radicalize alt-right people who fell down the pipeline, and it shows that all they like these people have changed in some ways. Like, I guess they fixed certain problems, but the core thing is they're just left-wing chuds. We have a left-wing chud problem because these people haven't really sat with like themselves about like racism and misogyny and what and how did they got to that place. They don't truly, they just learned the right buzzwords. They learned, but that's why we still have a problem among leftist men being sex pests and predatory and doing and still dealing with certain things among leftist men. It's because they haven't unpacked their male privilege and their white privilege, and just kind of like that's why you have certain people who exist in the space who have platforms, who have credible things that they've done things and still be able to have a platform and people to exist in that. I won't say names, but we know who we're talking about. So those people are the same people. It's not just them, but I mean that's the same reason why like a Graham Platner couldn't exist and gain platform, gain energy, because these people see themselves in him. They see like, oh, this person's used to have a Nazi, used to be a racist. I used to say bigoted things back in 2016, 2015, 2016, 2017. So people can change. So they kept using, oh, well, I've changed. People, so that was like the biggest momentum was people that were defending him were talking about that, well, people can change all this shit. And it goes back to the alt-right platform because that is their participation. They participated in. And so because of their own guilt and their like, they weren't able to call it out because they would have to call themselves out.
I never
because
thought of it like
that
that.
was the
That's so
biggest
true.
premise of that. But that is what it is. It is these people who fell down the pipeline or gave grievances to people they shouldn't have or to causes that they shouldn't give to. And so because they participated, they're not in a position where they feel like they can go and have that foresight, like people of color, trans people, women, etc., or even men, cis men who did that work. They can't spot that because they live in this conundrum of, well, they can change, I change, and who people who haven't really changed, who are using Gamergate tactics, which is dogpiling, brigading, silencing,
Yeah.
against other
That's funny.
leftists.
I think so much of this
I want you to
because
pick up on it.
oh sorry.
So no, you
I
got. I was
again
saying you pick up on what I said.
oh, complete yes. Hard yes, like completely agree with everything that you're saying there. And you know what Bridget was saying about commodification, I think that's like one huge important piece of this. I also think that another really important piece is the way people are just like there's a lot of this weird credential culture that people have for some reason, and they like to see, well, because capitalism, that they view similarity to them is obviously a safety thing. Like they feel safe, they see themselves in this person who overcame bigotry. I'm really abusing the air quotes today, I'm sorry, but this person who apparently overcame bigotry, they latch on to them because they want to believe that narrative. But I also think that there's something going on there with like, you know, oh, they're qualified to lead America as it's tumbling into this overt alt-right fascist state of being. This person is qualified to then deal with that problem. And what makes me want to scream, and I'm going to use a little anecdote here. I was speaking with someone a while ago who was talking about having some complicated, a white man who is a good person and good at listening, but was having complicated feelings about a woman who got a promotion in, I think, a naval position over a more experienced male officer who was also up for the promotion, and was like, you know, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, was she more qualified? Like, she didn't have as much work experience, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, consider she has the work experience of a woman's labor for her entire life. What is that if not a credential in changing a broken system, right? Is that remembering that the people, for every single person that you see overcoming bigotry that is taught to us by the oppressive systems that we live in, the people who never experience that bigotry aren't less understanding. They're literally more qualified. They're more qualified because they were never pulled into it in the first place. They're more qualified because they always had an outside perspective. That's like not hiring a plumber because they don't live in your house personally. Like, that's silly. They're not a good analogy, but you get what I mean, right? Like you look to outside expertise all the time. Why not on social issues? Why not on social issues? And if it's okay, I want to pull up that quote
I
and
was gonna say, don't forget
kind
the
of,
quote. Yeah.
encourage people to read this article by Toby Buckle. It came out back in December. It's called "The Americans Who Saw All This Coming But Were Ignored and Maligned." Call them the Cassandras, the people, mostly not white and male, who smelled the fascism all over Trump from Jump Street. Why were they alarmists, and how did anti-alarmism become cool? And there's a specific quote from this article. Please, if we can link the article itself, I really encourage people to read it. It's a very, very good read. But there's this quote specifically that I want to highlight. The first thing to say about fascism's Cassandras, Cassandra being a reference to the Greek myth, is that they're usually women. Not all women are Cassandras, most aren't, but most Cassandras are women. My sense is that black Americans of either gender are likelier than whites to be Cassandras, and trans and non-binary people are heavily overrepresented within this group. So I want to pass this quote to everyone here to discuss, because I think I really need the people who are backing guys like Platner and then doubling down and getting upset with the rest of us for calling them out to engage with this reality that we're not doing it because we hate you. We're doing it because we know stuff you don't know, because we see stuff you don't see. And it's very frustrating when all of this comes to light, as it always fucking does, and then we get blamed for it like we are the reason Platner turned out to be an actual. You know, I'm sorry to make you censor it. Turned out to be a rapist, right? Like,
Sounds
that's
like
not
white
on us.
fragility. I think that's what we're
100%.
dealing with
Yeah.
is white fragility. They haven't it's them not being able to be humble enough to admit they were wrong or
Yes.
say sorry because they deserve a sorry as well. And that's the problem is that these are already people that is probably pulling teeth to get an apology from in their own personal life with the interpersonal people they are around or with. So the reality, like that's what I mean. Like when I say this space, like there's a large segment of these people that exist here because the space, the bread tube was created to de-radicalize these said people. But as you see, there's a lot of them who haven't done the full work, and that's why they have such a loud presence, and they're all within so many audiences. They're not just on, I'll just call them the debate bros, the debate bro side. No, it surpasses that. That's just one example of it. And, they're all on the people that were pushing it. They're watching the Kyle Kalinskis, the Emma Goodman who went and, downplayed a woman's what she experienced. I'll just use it that word. We know what we're
Emma
talking
Vigilant.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Emma Vigilant.
Emma
Sorry,
Vigilant, yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry. Emma Vigilant. I really appreciate how I think it's a human.
Sam Cedar.
It's not the humanist. Yeah, Sam Cedar. The way with the video he came out talking about it.
Sorry, do you mean the Rational National or the Humanist Report?
Not Rational. Sam Cedar. No, the Humanist Report. Yeah, Humanist Report had a really good video talking about how they were always signs, and like not just that, but like he was very forthcoming about like, hey, like when you're like you're wrong, and it's also just like there was all these leading signs that just you all. And he said how I appreciate how he said this because he's basically speaking to his peers. Like it's like how bad this looks on us for our within the left to people of color and our community and one. Yeah. Like basically, all y'all have egg on your face, and now you just messed up, and made us look real fucking bad to people of color, trans folks, other people, women who were calling us out, and y'all were giving them lashings, and now, we're in a state where we're more disconnected than ever as a left, and we all have ideas, and we all have beliefs, but this situation right now, we've been calling this type of out, especially amongst, I just call it the intersectional left YouTube. We've been calling this type of behavior and whatnot. And we've been getting shit for it. And because that wasn't nipped in the butt, the things we've been warning for years, that behavior has shattered so much solidarity and made people look so idiotic. And now people are putting people's judgment, they're questioning people's judgment now. People's judgment are put into question now. People that were up here acting big and tough, only to and to me, I'm seeing the discourse goes as far as it's okay if it was people of color and brown people being, but when it's a white woman, now when it's honestly like true, and it sucks. I don't want to have to go to the point, but it's like why is it that one famous meme like you could excuse racism? But you can't, it's one of those situations, literally, like the Nazi tattoo, everything. I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at said what this.
Actually, yeah.
And it's
this gets back to like,
to that.
This gets back to what I brought up. Yeah, this is what I get brought up the last time, right? Is that we should all have like red lines, right? And it's fucking ridiculous that it took this, even though this is horrific and it should be a red line, and I'm glad at least people choose. But how was there no red line for you before? Like this man had more red flags than like a military parade in China. Like this is just, it's crazy. Like the 3 tours in Iraq. So that's already a load of brown people. Apparently you don't care about that. Whatever.
Yeah.
Blackwater, being a guard at Abu Ghraib, saying it was the best time of his life. The Nazi tattoo, and then like the other allegation
Black people don't tip as well. He said black people don't tip. On a Reddit comment. Yeah. So I want to know what else the black people don't do. I want to know. And you want to take a change? Please tell me at that time what else did you think black people did and didn't do, and tell me how the fuck did you change? What did you do? And they didn't do nothing.
Yeah, and if a candidate if he didn't look like him, like they would not have accepted that many fucking red flags. You know, they would not have walked straight
100%.
past them every single time.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's his embodiment of that privilege that got him as far as he did. And like you say, like a part of me, this is the actual true, like maybe being too like open, but like a part of me saw the backlash to this happening and was somewhat surprised. Not that like we should be. This is of course you should be out of the public scene forever. But what surprised me was like, why are suddenly now everyone's? It's like the train is a train and everyone has to be on board, whether that train is going forward or backwards. And now everyone is jumping ship. Everyone is jumping ship, and we're getting.
Well, not everyone. Not everyone.
Oh, really? Who's not?
TYT is still very much like
Oh.
they're victim blaming her. They're saying
I
that it's a smear
mean-
campaign.
Fuck.
Are we
But
surprised?
it's TYT, you know, we should
I
expect
don't-
it from them at this
Yeah.
point.
I'm just don't like they
And
don't-
Ryan
they,
Grimm.
They don't count. But like, okay, fine, maybe I'm wrong then. But see, look how easy it is to just say, hey, I'm wrong. I was wrong. Incorrect in the information I had. It's really not hard. Like,
Yes.
and like that, there were so many points I'm like nodding and just silently agreeing. But like, yes, like being able to say you're wrong is a skill that we should be taught before we learn Pythagoras' theorem in maths. For God's sake, like, what, like, it is. I actually get people in my comments in my YouTube videos saying you should be more steadfast in what you say. Like, you shouldn't always like second guess yourself. And I'm like, maybe we actually should. Maybe we actually should.
Yeah.
Say we're wrong way more. And it goes back to exactly what somebody you were just saying earlier about the attention economy and about, as content creators, we get your attention, and by doing that we have to sound confident, like we know what we're doing. And anyone in the public sphere, any influencer, any person in politics and stuff, has to sound like they are 100% correct, so that you can put your faith in them, believe them, that you're not misplacing
The
it.
kayfabe. The
kayfabe, exactly.
Because you're a
And
brand and
but what
not a person.
exactly, and what that does is to lead into people two things: the people doing it have to just do a TYT, just never back down. We're never wrong. Oh my god. And then the people watching it are led into this false sense of security that they can just completely put their trust into this one person. And that is just fundamentally, as a thing, not okay. What really gets me, and I just wanted to add this before the conversation moves on, is they must have known about this and they kept it secret. That to me is the most disqualifying thing about modern day politics, that I understand people are between a rock and a hard place. It's the Zionist or it's the rapist. What a horrible situation that we're in. And it's like, maybe that's because we should be taking it past the election cycle. Maybe we should be rioting in the streets. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to call for that on YouTube, whatever. But like, we should be protesting peacefully in the
Legally,
streets.
these are not the view of everyone on this
The
podcast.
view of the Left Wave Transmission podcast. No, we should have a right to protest our grievances. But like, they must have known. He must have had that conversation with someone and said, well, there is some other stuff that I should probably tell you about, gang, my little PR team, in case that comes out.
I actually know what went down. I just watched a video about it.
Oh,
Let me
tell me.
quickly just explain it real quick.
Yeah.
Basically, they hired, so the whatever the organization that got him, they hired a firm and got a couple things. They got things back, but they didn't get everything back. But there were certain things that the person that was being the interviewer was asking him, like, did this and this come out? What particular things that we're seeing now that came out did y'all see? And he basically said, like, and I'm paraphrasing, he's like, yeah, we saw some things were like that had come back. I was like, that's not a problem. We'll get over past that. I don't think that's enough to stop this campaign. That is exactly, and that was a white man. This is the same person that filmed John Fetterman. This same org, because they're Bernie Bros. When we call them Bernie Bros, these are ex-Bernie Bros that created an org to go find their candidates, and there's a pattern of them going after only strong-looking white men. The only one that wasn't that was Mondani, but Mondani fits a type of image and look of a man of color that's palatable. He's the Zendaya of Indians. Let's be real. He's a Zendaya of Indians. He got the right look. He got the daddy look. Girls want to sit on his face. Everything. I mean, real. There's a lot of things when he came out that I saw the TikToks. The people was thirsty for him. Reaction online for a mayor that don't even the city they've probably never been to. But that's the point. Like, they are going out of their way to find men who have a particular look and are willing to look past certain things, because they haven't done that breakdown. Like, these aren't people who are Bernie or bust, but these were misogynistic Bernie guys that made Bernie lose, like back in 2016, because they weren't intersectional. These are the same people who dismissed Black Lives Matter and said that they were taking over Bernie's rally and disrespected him, and people that participated in that discourse back in 2016 on that February of 2016 protests that to them 2 Black Lives Matter women that got up on the stage and took over the last 15 minutes. And because of that, Bernie would update it his campaign messaging and like platform to include police brutality. Prior to that, they did not have that. That's what I mean. Like, Bernie is a white man. Like, it took them 2 Black women taking over for him to include that, and they don't realize that they were helping his movement. But at every step of the way, they ignore Black people. He thought he could win a primary without the Black vote. They thought they can go and rather go get rural voters. Tried it twice, 2016, 2020, and got the same fucking result where they went for Trump, because they would rather do that and go the extra mile than go do what the liberals are doing, which is registering new voters like Stacey Abrams. That's like a big, it's like, as she's like, she's a corporate Democrat, but I will give her that Black woman was getting on the fucking road and got over 300,000 people in her own district signed up as new registers to vote. 300,000 new registered people. On top of that, we're fighting the Republicans who are on registering people and having them forget people to re-register. And they were doing things like really slick stuff. So like, they could have went and did that grassroots work, but instead it was white men hubris wanting this white man leading, because the problem is what we're seeing. They want white men to lead the fucking cause. They think they know better. And it keeps coming back to that. And because Bernie thought he knew better than Black people and trans people and whatnot, and their supporters thought they knew better, they pushed away Black voters, especially when he did that reparations. After that, did the reparations take, which was when he was asked. I remember this Black woman, it was at a college, she like, what's your sense of reparations? Because I know you're really afraid to speak on it. You're afraid of that, and said that Black people deserve reparations. So what is your stance? And she said it very assertively. I love it. With the sass and all, as she fucking deserves. You can say that to your fucking potential elected leader. She doesn't have to tone police herself to say that. She wasn't cussing, so at least she wasn't cussing. She wasn't screaming. It was fine. And he went, it's like, what do you mean about reparations? What do you mean by reparations? Immediately, that's dropped the ball. With Black voters, they're very simple. They were very simple voters. If you sound goofy, we ain't voting for you. That's all it takes. If you say some goofy shit, you're already out the window. We don't say, the person ain't for it. And it's that simple. And so he's done enough. Like most Black people, takes one thing. Some take 2, but he's done more than enough goofy shit. And his fan base as well, his supporters, were being racist. I mean, these anti-SJWs were Bernie bros. Chris Reagan, Sean Head, all these other people who identified as liberals were Bernie's bros, who were pushing the racism, were like the faces of the alt-right pipeline. The people getting people in it, like the gateway people getting you started. So like, that's what we're seeing. We're still seeing that product of Bernie bros who did not grow, who don't elevate, are moving to org and getting people put forward. And they know there's enough of an audience of white Americans, white leftists, who are going to overlook that because they also were edgy. I mean, that's why we had that iDubbbz conversation, was because of like the edgy culture shit. We're still fucking being harmed by it till this day. And people, that's why they're so quick to like bring him in, because all these people were already edgy back then, and they're happy to have their old edgelord now be part of the left, so they can like comfortably watch him and comfortably bring him in and comfortably have them on topics. Like, we're still dealing with the same edgy people, still wanting to show their edginess still through their candidates and their politics and push it back, but they might not say the edgy things they used to say, but they'll go show symptoms of being an edgelord. Sorry, that was a tangent, but like hopefully that makes sense.
No,
it was
no, it was good.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, while we're on the topic of white men's blind spots, I want to address one of the criticisms that obviously we'll get to anyone that disabuses Platinum for obvious reasons, what we should. And as once some of my chat said that they don't think people can change. I did address this now because I think this is one of these things that I think people assume people who are against him think that people can't change. And I don't think that's true. I don't agree with that. I think people can change, but you've got to actually do the work. You've got to actually do the reading, you know? If people think like you can become a left, you can change some of your positions, but you also need to unlearn a lot of that stuff that you've absorbed. I need to continue working yourself because it's never done, right? Like you can read like Lenin or whatever, but you also, you know, you need to read like Hooks and Fanon and shit like that, and like Angela Davis. And like there's a lot of that going on that people don't feel like they need to, you know? They're like, well, I'm left enough now. I don't need to do the work. I've got all the right positions. No, you haven't unlearned it. You've got enough that you sort of understand the economic things, but like it ties into everything else, you know? I think this is another one of these big problems where like they're coming in and they're like, well, I've changed. Like, so like Kyle Kalinske wasn't like super left before. And you come in and be like, oh, well, I know what's good now. And this guy, his vibes seem really good to me. So obviously this is, but like if you had that knowledge, you'd be looking at things and thinking, wait, why am I being okay with this and that and this and that? Which would be red flags to like most people who have like a sense of danger when they see like who can see like they don't look at a white man with like massive muscles who've been in the military and immediately default to like the hero worship that a lot of white male Americans go into with the military. And especially I say this especially with Americans because I feel like the military worship is fucking weird. But like maybe it's other places too, but like that is deeply bizarre and it's like a real blind spot. And I think you know that if you think you're over it, you're not going to question it, right?
Finn has to go in 5 minutes, so let's give Finn the last 5 minutes at least on the floor before they have to get going. I want to make sure you have your say. I'm trying to keep you on time.
Thank you. I mean, what you were both like on fire there, so I appreciate that. Sorry, Bridget, to jump in, but I wasn't.
Sure, I was done anyway.
Not even going to say anything that's particularly different from what you're saying, but just to kind of summarize the reason that you know the Shuan head types. That all of these predominantly cis white men, but a lot of women as well, white women as well, can only see people like Platner in positions of power in a way that is real and tangible and gets them fired up and gets them motivated and moving is because of that association with whiteness and power to them. So they don't want to look at the connections between white power. They don't want to look at the fact that part of them believe in white power. And to just what you were saying, Bridget, there's this tendency for white people in particular to start educating themselves, particularly white people who were formerly bigoted, like who had that, you know, like edgelord phase that Soul Bunny was talking about, to begin to educate themselves on Marxism, to begin to educate themselves on politics, to begin to educate themselves on the class struggle, because it's the struggle that is most personal to them. But if you're not unpacking the other hierarchies, you are not actually targeting oppression. You are not resisting the systems that put some people above others. You might tackle class division, but you're going to create a new social system where other people are still oppressed. White supremacy is a racial hierarchy. Patriarchy is a gender and sexual hierarchy. If you are not looking at those things, you are not actually unpacking those attitudes. And so for me, the big deal breaker with Graham Platner was just the fact that he so clearly had not unpacked like colonial attitudes, white supremacy, like imperialism. Like he just hadn't done any of the work in these areas at all. And that was the deal breaker for me. And to bring it like way back to when we were talking about where the line is for people, like being a rapist is a pretty clear line for me. Like that's a very clear line, but he had already crossed the line. He had very clearly already crossed the line. And I want to remind people, particularly, you know, like white folks who are listening in, who are, you know, like maybe we're backing him, who struggle with this kind of thing, recognizing that if you're giving certain people more space than others, why? If you notice that you are, like, for example, this whole situation, I have already seen many people who backed Platner being more upset about the minoritized people who pointed it out and have said, we fucking tried to tell you, than they are about the fact that he is literally a rapist and a war criminal. He gets way more space to be way more awful. Why? Why do you give him so much space? So look at where you draw your lines around people, ask where those lines come from, and then acknowledge that you have the power to change them. Because for me, like I agree with what Bridget was saying, people can absolutely change. My line for Platner, where like an area where I would be comfortable having him is if, say, I were part of or running a men's group that was about men recovering from trauma, especially trauma that was associated with hurting other people, and I saw him there. Hell yeah, brother. That's where you belong. Like that is a place where I will form a relationship with you, where we can build solidarity, where we can engage and change together. That's a place where that can definitely happen. The fucking Senate, not so much. Not so much. Like, look at your lines. Look at your lines and choose where you put them and ask where the impulses are coming from. Because I can almost guarantee you that if you grew up in this incredibly oppressive, hierarchical society, they are coming from lessons that you learned about who is better based on virtue of identity. And to top it all off, the fact that these people are complaining at everyone else, particularly racialized women, about identity politics is just another way that they have created yet another form of oppression within systems of movement. Systems of movement. Oh my God. Systems of resistance. Resistance movements. Let's go with that. So those are my 2 cents.
I completely agree.
Well
I
said.
think
That
it's
was so good.
this halo effect on him that it is like it ties into the pretty privilege of it as well, or the perceived pretty privilege of people of his likeness. And I think somebody nailed it on the head when she said, like, people that have come from the right to the left, they see themselves in him and they want to justify the fact that maybe they haven't done all the work so they can project that onto him, because they're like, well, maybe he's not perfect, but maybe I'm not perfect, so it's like maybe everything's perfect. But what I want to just add it before we go is like, what to me is really clear is, especially bringing in what Bridget said about like who has actually done the work and who hasn't, is that if you've come to this radicalization to the left and you've kind of literally become woke with the original word of it, you've unlearned a bunch of shit through just online discourse, or you've just done like some form of, like you say, studies into economics or politics and stuff alone, then you have chosen that. And I think the cis het white men that do so have an entirely different lived experience than someone that is forced into the understanding of those systems being innately flawed and that patriarchy is flawed through their identity. And like, again, when you have a trans woman of color, the intersectionality of how different their life is going to be, how people treat them. And I think that they are not the same. You do not get to the same place. And like, even as a white woman who transitioned, seeing how the world literally treated me differently when I was male or expressed male to now, the same people, different interactions, the same situations, different interactions. I could get a fucking job just by putting my fucking white name on a CV and applying for it, and well underqualified, and I'd walk into it. And then, as in like my corporate girly boss era, I'm watching people get hired under me with more money, and I'm being told by my bosses, well, you can probably not get any higher because you're a woman and there are no other female managers. I lived that experience. It was different for me, and I had one of the easiest versions of it as a white girl in the world. So like, you do not walk in the same path, but even if you come to the same ending of being a leftist, a radical, whatever, you've learned some stuff, you do not see the world in the same way. You never will. Like, and so a lot of this cis white men that need to grapple with that, they can't, they won't, they never will, because they don't want to admit that they haven't got all of the information they need, because they're taught, like I was saying earlier, they're taught that they know everything, they're the smartest in the room. They could be any woman at chess. I could probably actually be that famous tennis player at tennis, like, just because she's a woman. Like, that's actually how they're taught, and they think they'll never ever understand the difference. And that's, I think, a huge issue here, is that like there's just this innate belief that they are okay, they've done all the work, like you both said, and like there are some things you can't read in a book. There are some lived experiences of society, of being ostracized, being a minority, that are quite hard to explain, especially if your eyes and ears are shut to it, like they often are. And I think that's a ripple of what we're seeing here. Like, that on the left, at least, there is you can see the difference. Like, I think somebody said the intersectional online left is a great term for it. Like, that there is a difference than the Carl Kalinskis of the world. I'm sorry, there is.
I mean, people definitely watched like 2 ContraPoints videos and then thought they learned everything they needed to learn, and that's just.
I mean, I fall a bit victim to that. I will be honest.
1 second. I think Finny has to get going, so I'll let them.
I do have to
hard out,
yeah. Yeah. No, I'm sorry about my alarm going off in the background. It's reminding me. It's like, hey, get out the door.
Send those links.
But yeah, no, just
already.
yes, I will. Yeah. what you were saying though, Louise, it's that thing where it's like just reminding people who are in privileged positions that when it comes to marginalized people, what looks like bias is often expertise. And when it comes to people in positions of like social privilege, what looks like neutrality is often lack of awareness of one's social position. So just like don't confuse those things. Anyway, I'm gonna bounce because that alarm is making me want to crawl out of my skin. I love you all. Goodbye.
Love you.
Bye, bye,
too.
bye.
Good night, Ben.
Sorry, I try to manage. I try to moderate.
No, you've been
Some
keeping
of
us
the
on
Great.
track. I've been
Very
really
good.
appreciating
I loved it.
it.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
a bit sexy.
Yeah, I don't try to cut people off. Sorry.
No, it was perfect.
I have way too much ADHD to function without someone keeping me on track.
Oh, I know. I've been managing ADHD. Actually, that's what was helping. I had to like. I know if I don't say something, I want to make sure Finn gets their. Because I made sure they get their moment. So I knew they had to go. So I
Yeah.
like, can you let them have their last 5 minutes? They
No,
had their
it's well
little
done.
tangent. It was good. It really was good.
Yeah, it was good.
I would definitely say I'm glad we're coming to all the same conclusions and building upon each other's
Yeah.
hypothesis that we are having, because as all of us as women, trans women, I thought we've been seeing, we've as people who've been online. I mean, I know Luis, you're a little you came to things a little later than us because you
sure.
weren't like there for like the Gamergate or even
I'm
the
a
whole like
proper late
anti-Shinobi
bloomer
wave. You
leftist,
were
yeah.
probably closer to Brexit was when you probably
Brexit was my
were
first
trying to
moment.
hit
Yeah,
the things.
it
Yeah,
was.
so
It really was.
I made a good assumption. Okay, that was an educated guess. But
Pretty good when you see like a British person. It's like half of it's just like, oh no, this is because of Brexit.
and yeah, but like that's why I was connecting that the whole thing was like when you're talking about LARPers,
Yeah.
it was initially American. I mean, well, we had our own shit going on anyways. It was the Gamergate thing. That's what had the British people LARPing going in on that. I mean, also Anita Sarkeesian. That's where Sargon created his channel because of that. So there was certain internet chuds, the original chuds of the internet, as I would call. I'm calling in my video because this chud behavior. Because like I can use the language of today to describe the past, and that's really all it was—a bunch of fucking chuds. But we had the he was the chud a chudling at the time, so he became the chud prince to chud king. So Sargon went and him and his lackeys helped create representation for more LARPers. He was the LARPer king. He was such a fucking terminally aligned person that when I was going to his internet archive and it was like just like each download was just a different day. It was so fucking long to get through each year. This guy was uploading 3 videos a week at times, 3 to 4 videos. This man was just constantly like, what would that? I can imagine what that would do to your head. So this person was given the LARP in American news to a British audience that eventually grew into American audience. It was like, and his whole effect has definitely helped. I'm not saying Sargon alone helped bring Brexit to the British young man, but I'm saying like he was one of the dominoes that helped bring it to fruition. And because there was a lot of copycats of Sargon. And so that's really when you get into things, when you get the copycats, it becomes a trend, it becomes a phenomenon, it became something that the attention economy and people trying to make money on this. And that's how you get into, especially once American were LARPing on Islamophobia, that's when the British like, oh, I know all about that. I can get on. Let me hop into this conversation. We know. So that's what kind of where it became. They were LARPing on, so it was a unity thing. So it wasn't that it was entirely just American, but there was a certain point where it was symbiotic. I can't say it properly. Symbiotic, where they were feeding off of each other. It was racism from there being brought up just as ours was going up. So because white nationalism was going up all over at the same time. I mean, like I remember with the French one, they had that generation. What was the Next Generation or something? Generation Youth or something. It was. I remember. I forgot what it was called. It was Generation something.
Was that Generation Europa or something? I can't remember.
Yeah, something like that. Generation something.
Yeah.
But they were over there. They had their rise, their whole thing. Everyone was. I mean, you had Count Dankula. Wasn't he in Ireland and the UK as well? But like, he wasn't in Ireland bringing that. He got
He's
arrested
Scottish.
there. It was or Scottish. Sorry, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, but the redheads I'm beginning to mix up. It was decided Scott, but I'll be real. I have to hold myself accountable. But yeah, no, yeah, he was tried there. There was a building of there. Italy, racism crazy. Now they know. Everyone knows how they are over there. But at the time, they were having their shift. So it was, I would say, like Western chauvinism as a whole at the same time was being beamed to everyone's. I mean, even if you weren't engaged, that culture was being beamed throughout the whole, not just on the on the America side in Canada, but also Europe, and they just kind of were living that because of those chuds. And really, it is like millennial cishet men. I mean, that the sad reality is, like, as much as the bigots of the power of the boomers and whatnot, it was the last nail that put the coffin. It was the millennial white men votes and their actions and what they're putting online and whatnot is what put us here. And I hate. I don't want to I don't want to blame all millennials. No, it was millennial white men. I blame them for everything I'm going through right now. Because when it was their time to not drop the fucking ball, they went and dropped the ball for Republicans. Like, they weren't going to act Republican. Because of what? Political correctness. They're anti-political correctness. That's all it took. That was all the cheese. That's all the bait for the cheese to put us in this timeline was Trump was anti-political correctness. All these people were anti-political correctness. They're running campaigns in Europe. So that's all it took. That's all the cheese they needed was anti-political correctness. That's all it took for us to be put in this timeline. That's all these are rats that can't help. Like, it was a trap. And they saw that big ass cheese, which is anti-political, and they just couldn't help but to get a bite. They could have helped themselves. They could have, and now look where we're at.
Well,
I mean, this is one of the things that really bothered. This is one of the things that really bothered me
Brexit.
about this, actually. Sorry, this is one of the things that really bothered me about the Platner thing, especially lately as well. Because one of the things, like when I was going back today, just through the comments from like Kalinsky or like not so much from Hassan, but from like Kalinsky and a couple of others, is they were sort of, and Hassan did do this a little bit as well, of like framing the anti-Platner stuff as sort of like, oh well, this is just like this has just been like, oh, a two online, like you're doing like identity policing, it's all identity politics and all this stuff. Like, no, that's not what this is about at all. And there's so much like cross-cultural, like you were saying, the Anglosphere has so much cross-cultural brainworms. It can really fucking dangerous, and it's been going on for a while right now. Like when I think of like you talking about like being politicized by Brexit, I was politicized obviously because I'm a little bit older than you two, a lot, by like the Iraq War, right? And you could definitely see like the Islamophobia really fed into each other from both sides of the Atlantic. And like cards on the table, I have like I had one of my uncles is from Iraq, and I have cousins that are half Iraqi. So for me, that's fucking real, you know. When someone comes up to you at school and says, "I'm fantasized about like going and shooting people in Iraq," I'm like, "That's my fucking family." And it was like horrendous to watch like all these people that like thought they're just normal people, and then they're talking like people who personally should die. And like, why? Because some guy from a completely different country drove a plane into a building. And it's just the level of reinforcement from this media environment is just insane. And I think it's right that we hold these people accountable. I think it's genuinely bananas that like people can dismiss our actions in the Iraq war so easily. Because I think for a lot of people, they see people in different countries as just sort of like NPCs, or like they can't picture them, or they're too far away to matter. No, these people fucking matter too. And if you are a leftist, you should be an internationalist, and you should care about what happens to people. It doesn't matter how far away they are.
Again, that's something that's so missing. Again, it's another thing that's like you can tell. And like let me be clear. I'm not claiming to have read everything. I'm not claiming to be the bestie, the lefty. Like I am a baby leftist. I've always defined myself as such. I'm still learning every day, and I get to talk to these wonderful people like you, and I'm learning every day. A lot of like you said earlier, somebody, like that's why I love this podcast already. We throw ideas out there. We communicate, and I take so much from it. I generally walk back. I've learned what exceptionalism means. I'll just start a bloody key terms list of everything you guys have taught me. But what I can also still see is that there's this something that then is still lacking in other people that like haven't done that learning is that egalitarian mindset of like, let's just start at the basis that every life is valid and equal, and then let's backtrack from there. And if you're okay with certain minorities and brown people dying over in other countries, why? That's a bit flawed, is it not? And like, I I don't know. That's such a basic thing that we shouldn't have to be said, but that clearly is missing. And it's a failing of our education systems. It's a failing of our media, and such like a wide scale thing that teaches that. But that is what is effectively taught, especially from like I can speak on upbringing in the UK. Like you are taught that like white cultures are superior, that they are white people are generally smarter. You learn that through media and education. You learn history skewed in a way that frames everything that white people did as correct. It's messed up. It's so messed up, and like you do have to unlearn it and unpack it. Unfortunately, if you're a baby of the empire, you have to unlearn that. And it's so clear that some people just haven't. They've unlearned maybe a fraction of it, some bit of that that's affected them. It's the people that like I always bring up my family, but it's kind of relevant because there's an illustration of this. But like, people that are like they have a trans friend or a trans member of their family, so they're okay with trans people, but they don't quite get on board with like, you know, the other letters of the alphabet, or like vice versa. Like, oh, I don't mind the gay people, but can the trans people stop it? It's like it's like only caring about things that affect you because people still think that they're the center of the universe when we're nothing. We're nobodies.
I wanted to build upon what something Bridget said about like being called like, oh, identity politics, or like basically be written off of that. That is anti SJW talking points.
For
And
sure.
they're pushing that. Like that is that is literally what anti-SJWs embody, is that they were anti-identity politics. That was their whole platform. That's what united all anti-SJWs, is that their whole pursuit, they set themselves with their full chest that they're speaking out against identity politics, and that it's harmful, this identity politics, and they're trying because they want to oppress men and they want to oppress white men and all the bullshit they were saying. They were writing off as identity politics. That again, like what I mean about like was created to de-radicalize people that watch that content, are still using anti-SJW talking points because they haven't really broken up all of that era. They've only got they've done is become a leftist anti-SJW by replacing the politics. They have correct politics. They maybe worked on certain aspects of themselves that is better, but the full package ain't done. They ain't read the bell hooks. They haven't really sat with themselves with why they were vulnerable victims to that type of content. How were you able to fall down the pipeline and something else? What in your life made it more where you were more susceptible than someone else? For me, I fell around the pipeline. And it was because I grew up as a suburban Black person. It was the only Black kid in the space. So it was easier to join them and get them off my back. And now look at me. Oh, I'm a good one. I was a token. But that drained me. Being a token drained me. And that's what got me out of it, really. Out of anything more than anything, I got token fatigue. That's really what it was. I got token fatigue to the left. And I just like found, and I had to like do that work. And that work took years. That work I was doing, it took at least a couple years minimum to even get to the point where I was able to confidently call myself a leftist and not sit here and just like quickly throw a label the second I watched my first Angela Davis video, interview or whatnot. But I did that work, and so when I see people so quickly, especially white men, say they've changed and grown, and I look at my own journey, how it took years of unlearning and whatnot, and I'm like, wait, you ain't doing that. You ain't done a fraction of the shit that I've done for me, and I'm not even white.
Well,
So, but that's so common. Sorry, keep go join in, Louise.
I just wanted to add, sorry, I just say, and that's the difference about going into something not expecting to have all the answers and knowing everything. And that is, I think, this wall that we're coming up against. Like it sounds like you went through a similar thing, but like if you go into society like with some humbleness of like, hey, maybe I don't know everything, maybe I'm not right about everything, you can completely see the world in a different way and be allowed and like open up to the unlearning of things, and like not go in so blind to just believe that you know everything, which I think so many of the demographic we're talking about, they do. They are forced to, and you could argue the bell hooks thing about psychic damage is the first thing they have to do themselves. Like they are taught to be confident and to not back down and to never say that they were wrong. And that's technically not their fault. And so it's a whole big cycle of upholding the patriarchy that I get is the issue. I even think, like, and not to get too meta, but like, I even think the education system that is just designed to prepare people to work in the capitalist hellscape, you're designed to it's I know this is so weird, I can't voice it, but like, it's education focused, is intellectual, like intellectualism, like as in like having the right answer is considered putting you higher up in the hierarchy, which is not necessarily the only way we could run a society. I mean, I'm not fleshing this out. Maybe there is a word for this as well that pre-exists, but like, we don't have to all
You're right
be
about
right
the
all the time,
education.
you know?
Sorry, keep going.
No, please, no, yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong about the education thing at all. I think the problem that we have to sit with is that it was designed to be that way,
Yeah.
and leftism is the only way we're going to get it. And the reality is, we're fighting an uphill battle where,
Yeah.
despite yes, it's education, we're going to have to overcome that. We have no choice but to, because they set it up to where the only way to make it is to overcome poverty,
Yeah.
and lack of education, or working with the education you're offered publicly and getting where you can get with that. I mean, I consider that a privileged upbringing to be able to go to a K to 12 schools in suburbia.
Yeah.
You know, I had access to great education. That's the reason why I'm able to talk the way I do. When I'm serious, I can joke around too, but I can really, when I tap in, I mean, that's why I have the OC accent in here, because I went to an OC, Orange County suburban. I'm emphasizing it, but like, I've had access to that, and the reality is, not everyone had access, and it
True.
sucks. And it's so we're fighting. I mean, I think that's really what we have to do as leftists, is find a way to educate the mass, because that's the reality. Is we want the education to get better, but the only way is to get candidates in, and the only way to get candidates in is to educate the mass to be able to be educated enough to have an educated vote. An uneducated vote is why we're where we're at. Most people are so uneducated, they don't vote at all because they're not educated. And it's not just our jobs, it's so many other ways. But as creators, like, that is really what our goal is. This isn't to go have a mansion and a house. This is, we care about the cause, and we may not, we want to elevate these conversations because these are necessary, because at the end of the day, I mean, that's why, like I said, for me, like, this video, I'm taking my time, and I'm glad. I just got some news about it, where like my hard drive that I was going to that had my old data on it, my old interviews and everything, um it would cost $3,000 to get the data recovered, and I said, fuck that, bye. And I'm glad, so now I can move on. But I'm
It's a shame, though.
putting my foot forward in this video about this and this alt-right pipeline, because I want it to be my, not just my magnum opus, but I want people to be able to learn. If I leave YouTube, I'm leaving them with something that's going to give them everything that I put my effort and my energy into, so I can leave knowing they know everything, all my research and study time, and I can connect into one or two videos that's going to get them to where I hopefully with someone else will pass them on to someone else and do that work. And so that's what my goal is right now, is to get that, because without people understanding that like everything is connected to the initial culture war that started from Gamergators and even from the year prior, um we're not gonna, like, people are fighting in the dark. So many people, so many Americans, British, UK, they're fighting in the dark because they're not online. And it sucks. I don't want to be, but because we were online, and some of us who learned later out the fact, we learned why. We learned where this came from, and that there are so many people who are internet illiterate. And we need to give them that literacy, because without that literacy, they're missing pieces to the puzzle. And to put together the full puzzle, you need all the pieces. And a lot of people, we understand the political aspect of it, but there's aspects of the internet literacy to be able to understand how some of the political things that happen. And so to end that, because I have to get going, but I'm getting picked up but in a couple minutes. But I want to say that is something like we need to put emphasis on, and I think that's what our goal is. And that's why it's worth the harassment for me, because as long as more people are going to be internet illiterate, I'm happy to put together my thesis that the reason why we live in this hellscape with all these extreme grifters, where why do we have all these grifters everywhere? Why do we have these type of these politics? I would go with like politics, the positions right now this crisis. Why do we have Graham Platners? You know, it all goes back to this.
One thing I would just
And
end on though, like you're saying though,
yeah.
like what it does teach us, if I could find a silver lining in this fucking shit show that is the Graham Platner situation, it has made me feel a bit more confident to hold my beliefs steadfast, even if some of the greats in internet leftist spaces are not saying the same thing. It made me realize like let's all just actually really stick to our guns then, because no pun intended, Graham, because we all called it out, and like part of me was like, oh wow, there seems to be this discourse. Maybe I'm, especially as someone that's kind of new to the space, I'm like, maybe there's some stuff I don't know, maybe there's, again, going into it with a bit of humbleness, but like, no, let's just actually just say what we think, and if we're wrong in the time now, like then let it be, because it will be gratified later, like, and, you know, and that goes into your YouTube stuff, Sobani, and everything that like you've gone through, but like you will get vindicated at some point, I'm sure, and like that's given me a little bit of confidence to like kind of call something out if it's icky, you know.
Yeah, and if you're wrong, then it's an
Thank you.
opportunity to learn, and you can do that work. I'm glad you said that as well, by the way, Solvany, because I was about to say, like, about 10 minutes ago, I was like, I should probably head because my stomach is bad. So if we're all agreed that we're wrapping up soon,
Yeah,
we're good.
let's call it. I'm gonna end the stream now. Just
Yeah.
stick around to just sort out the admin. But thank you for sticking around to another episode of Left Wave Transmission. We're getting this podcast up and running now. We're pretty solidified, as solid and getting there. So we'll see you next week. It should usually be the day before today, but scheduling sometimes it will be the day after. So, but keep an eye out, and it will become more regular and build from there. But lovely to see you all in the chat. Sorry I didn't communicate as much, but I tried to. Have a good week, and I'll be working on a video soon. Some personal stuff going on, but I will release content at some point from my side. But to my chat, love you all so much. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.